Yeah,
Hey Thomas, how is everything going?
Jonathan, I'm doing well, my friend, doing well. So what do you got for me today?
All right, so I want to talk about companies that are looking to expand and have a new location or locations and the process and if it's even a good thing to do right now in the economic
Okay.
times that we are in.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say it's definitely, a good thing to do if it's realistic to do within your business because things have changed a lot. The last 4 years because of COVID, people moving around. There's different parts of the country that used to be prosperous. Now there's other parts of the country that are more prosperous. So yes, it can be done. It depends what you're doing, what industries. We've talked in the past about taking your brick and mortar and also expanding on e-commerce. But it's also helpful if you can actually open another location in a cost-effective way somewhere else, especially when the economy's bad, but it might be good in some areas. You can actually take advantage of that and jump on it. And that's what I would do. If you got a couple of, key people with your current location and you talk to them and say, listen, I want to create a cookie cutter situation. Like I've always used the baker as an analogy. And that cookie cutter, at least when you put that one or two key people in a new location, they actually know how you work operational wise. They know what they expect, and they can actually start duplicating that in a new location. So you might have a location in New York or Boston or out in Chicago or out in LA, but you want to open up, say, something in Phoenix or Dallas or maybe in Miami or somewhere in Florida, Tampa, or even go into the Carolinas. You can do that. But you know what? Try to do it from within. Don't try to hire people who are not that they don't know your game plan. You're better off taking people who know your game plan and expanding it to that area and make it worth their while, even if you got to give them a little bit of incentive of being part owner in it or a stockholder in it if they start hitting numbers, certain thresholds within a 5 year period. Your thoughts on that type of mentality, Jonathan?
So I think if you do the market research, I think that's the first thing that you have to do, right? You have to look
Of
at your
course.
business, look at what you're doing. If you're in New
Mm-hmm.
York, if you're like you said, if you're a baker in New York, you know your product can't get to Boston. So
Mm-hmm.
that and if you have the market research in hand and you know that there's a need or a desire for that type of business in that new location,
Mm-hmm.
do the math, do the number, do it all, put it together, figure out if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do surveying too. Is I mean, a lot of people will do surveys like, is this something that this area can use? Doesn't need it? Because I do see a lot of people sometimes they go too quick as well. There's several people that I know personally that they had a very successful business on Long Island, and they wanted to have several locations. So they went from one location to like seven locations. And what I kept in touch with him, and what I found out, through the meetings and phone calls that we had, that he was a little low on cash. He overextended himself a little bit, so he wasn't able to do the right thing for every store. So just
Mm-hmm.
be very careful. Make sure that you have the funds to do it, and you have the patience, right? Because sometimes starting a new store, you may not be profitable the first few years. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can't bankroll that, then put that money into something that would produce a better ROI.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends. Like I know some people need a location because, if you're a doctor, if you're like you said, you're a barber or something like that, you need locations. But a lot of service businesses, like a home improvement company, they don't necessarily need a location, though they have them for showrooms and so you can go over the plans and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
be very strategic. Every type of business is a little different, obviously. So you may not always need so many locations, but if it works in that area, like if you're a home builder in the Hamptons and your other office is in, Queens, obviously you might want to have an office somewhere where you're doing most of your work. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're just doing it because you want to say that you have another location, and it's not a good time to be playing around with that.
Yeah, it's not a good time to want to be like Mr. Prestige or Mrs. Prestige. I got you 100%. You want to you want to work smart about it, especially financially. You got to be smart about things right now. I'm not saying be a miser, but you got to know how to move your money around where it's going to be advantageous in the future for you to make a good return on your investment, like Jonathan had mentioned on that end. but it's also the key personnel. You know, you're going to start having a lot more talented people um, in the marketplace because there are people losing their jobs out there. A lot of people. Unfortunately, full-time positions have been cut tremendously. We see that through the U reports put out by the government. Always look at the U6 report. All right, just put in U reports for unemployment. You'll see U1 through U6. When they do the first Friday of every month for unemployment numbers, they look at the U3 number. It's kind of, you know, misleading. You want real true numbers, look at the U6 because that'll tell you how many people are actually what has full-time jobs, part-time jobs, and you're going to see the history of growth. And right now, the history is it's part-time jobs. Like you and I could have 3 part-time jobs, Jonathan. That would count as 3 jobs on the U3 report, but it's not saying if it's part-time or full-time. That's how much deception's in it. And we do know there's a lot of people out there that do have 2 and 3 part-time jobs because they're trying to make ends meet. You know, that's what's happening. So, you know, be smart about things. And like Jonathan said, you have to do your market research. So even when you're going into a new area, not only look at like what the potential is population-wise for you, traffic-wise, but also look at the potential of people that could be working for you. Look at the different age groups, you know, see what fits your wheelhouse and what you're looking for responsibility-wise from people. I'm noticing a lot more older people working for companies because they have to, they're working part-time, but companies are leaning towards hiring them because they have a different work ethic and they have the responsibility of showing up for work and they don't come up with these bullshit excuses, you know. Oh, I'm having a bad psychological day. I saw Miss Little Kitty get hit by a car in the cartoon. It's affected me mentally. Yeah, and by the way, that's not a joke. One of my clients had told me one of their employees called in over that. I'm like, woo-hoo! All right, wonder what crack pipe they were smoking. Anyway, all right, well, listen, let me not get too mean over here. You know, so you know what? You can expand. Don't allow this, you know, economy to scare your business because you might have the perfect business to scale right now with an economy and a downscale. But the only one that's truly going to know that is you. And you know, it's best if you want to reach out to consultants and feel free to, you know, message myself and Jonathan. And you know what? We're good ears. And you know what? We look at numbers. We're going to ask you questions that you probably weren't even thinking of that'll help you start thinking outside the box to see if it's realistic or not for you. Listen, this has been a great creative knowledge for you. Please hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, subscribe if you hadn't. This community is growing, and we look forward to chatting with you next time. Have a great day. Take care.
Everyone.